Ancient builders mastered the earth without machines or modern science. Beneath our cities and fields, they created 28 underground designs that challenge everything we know about early engineering. You are about to discover a hidden history of architectural genius, from cities carved for thousands of people to temples with impossible acoustics. By the end, you will see the past not as primitive, but as a time of profound innovation that we are only just beginning to understand. How did they construct vast subterranean networks that have lasted for millennia? And what forgotten knowledge allowed them to build what we sometimes cannot even explain today? What does it truly mean to build something that lasts forever? These structures did not rise by chance from the earth. They were born from a powerful convergence of human need and human spirit. Ancient peoples went underground for reasons as fundamental as life itself. They needed to store grain safely from pests and rot. They sought refuge from invading armies and the ravages of war. They dug deep in search of water, tapping into hidden aquifers to sustain their cities in times of drought. Yet their motives were not purely practical. They also descended to be closer to their gods, to create ceremonial chambers where the very rock seemed to amplify their prayers. They aligned tunnels and shafts with the sun and stars, turning caves into celestial calendars. This dual drive for survival and for meaning pushed them to become masters of the hidden world beneath their feet. The Romans channeled water through miles of rock with their aqueducts, while in the Americas, cultures like the ancestral Puebloans carved entire cities into sheer cliff faces. They possessed no steel, no power tools, and no formal textbooks on geology. Instead, they cultivated a profound, intuitive understanding of the land. They learned to read the strata of stone, to identify stable rock formations, and to manage the immense pressures of the earth above. They worked with the landscape, not against it, using natural contours for support and ventilation. Their building material was the planet itself, and their knowledge was passed down through generations, refined by trial and observation. This was engineering in its purest form, a dialogue between human ingenuity and the enduring strength of the world. It is this foundational genius that we must first understand, a legacy carved not in grand facades, but in the silent, enduring dark. Their genius was not born from random chance, but from a deep, accumulated understanding of physical laws. Without the mathematical formulas we rely on today, ancient engineers mastered concepts like weight distribution through sheer observation. They saw how an arch could channel immense pressure downward and outward, turning a fragile opening in a wall of rock into a gateway capable of supporting the weight of a mountain. This principle of the vault allowed them to carve out vast, cathedral-like spaces deep underground, spaces that have not collapsed over centuries. They designed intricate ventilation shafts, often using the natural flow of air and differences in temperature to pull stale air out and draw fresh air in, creating a breathable environment for thousands of people living in the dark. Water, the greatest threat to any subterranean structure, was managed with equal foresight. They carved capillary channels into walls to divert seepage, built sumps to collect it, and graded floors to guide it away from living areas. Their building blocks were the earth itself, limestone and granite, shaped with such precision that blocks locked together without any mortar, the friction and perfect fit alone creating a bond that has lasted for millennia. This was physics and environmental science perfected through generations of trial and error. It is within this framework of brilliant, practical knowledge that we encounter our first design, a city that stands as a monumental testament to underground urban planning. Deep beneath the rolling hills of Cappadocia, a hidden world lies in wait. This is Derinkuyu, an entire city carved by hand into soft volcanic rock, descending 18 levels into the earth. It was not merely a shelter, but a fully functioning metropolis built upside down, capable of housing 20,000 souls for months at a time. The architects of this subterranean world thought of everything. They carved out living quarters, churches, stables for livestock, and even elaborate wine presses. To breathe life into this deep stone labyrinth, they engineered an ingenious ventilation system, a network of shafts that reached from the lowest chambers all the way to the surface, ensuring a constant supply of fresh air. The greatest threat, however, came not from suffocation but from invasion. For this, they had a devastatingly simple solution: massive, wheel-shaped stone doors. These colossal slabs, weighing half a ton each, could be rolled across key passageways, sealing off entire sections of the city from any who managed to find their way in. What truly staggers the mind is the city's connection to a wider network. Tunnels stretching for miles linked Derinkuyu to other underground cities, creating a vast, secret territory beneath the landscape. This was not a panicked hideout, but a planned refuge civilization, a testament to a community's foresight and its profound understanding of how to live safely within the earth. This same drive for safety led to another incredible feat of hidden architecture, one born from a very different kind of rock and a very different kind of threat. Far from the defensive tunnels of Cappadocia, a different kind of wonder was taking shape on the islands of Malta. Here, a civilization devoted to its gods carved a sanctuary of profound silence and unsettling sound. The Hypogeum of Ħal Saflieni is a labyrinth of 3 entire levels, all excavated by hand from soft Globigerina limestone over 5,000 years ago. This was not a city for the living, but a sacred underground world for the dead, a place where architecture and spirituality became one. The builders meticulously recreated the forms of their massive above-ground stone temples, carving pillars, altars, and arched doorways directly from the living rock. But they added something more, an element that modern science is still trying to fully comprehend. One chamber, known as the Oracle Room, possesses an acoustic property that defies simple explanation. A deep voice spoken in a specific corner does not merely echo, it resonates through the entire room with a powerful, vibrating hum that seems to come from the stone itself. This was not an accident. The chamber was sculpted to create this effect, a tool for priestly rituals that could make a human voice sound like the utterance of a god. To build such a place required more than faith, it demanded incredible engineering foresight. They shaped corbelled ceilings that stepped inward as they rose, distributing the crushing weight of the earth above. They left thick pillars of untouched stone to act as natural supports, and on the walls they painted spirals and patterns in red ochre, a final artistic touch in a monument of breathtaking subterranean skill. This fusion of art, religion, and science stands as a timeless question carved in stone. How many other secrets did these ancient engineers bury with them? While they mastered the rock, others were solving an even more vital puzzle, the challenge of controlling water itself. While the builders of Malta were shaping stone for their gods, a civilization in Persia was performing a different kind of miracle, pulling life-giving water from the heart of the desert. The Qanats is a masterpiece of ancient hydrology, an underground canal system that turned barren lands into flourishing gardens over 3,000 years ago. Its design is one of elegant simplicity, powered entirely by gravity. Workers first dug a vertical shaft down to a water-bearing aquifer at the base of a mountain. From there, they began the painstaking work of carving a gently sloping tunnel, just wide enough for a single person, back toward their settlement. Along the entire length of this tunnel, they dug a series of additional vertical shafts down to meet it. These shafts served a dual purpose. They provided air for the diggers and later crucial access for maintenance and cleaning. Most importantly, by being entirely underground, the Qanat protected its precious cargo from the relentless desert sun, reducing evaporation to almost nothing. The engineering challenge was immense. The slope of the main tunnel had to be perfect, a gradient just steep enough to keep the water moving, but not so steep that it would erode the channel and cause a catastrophic collapse. Surveyors used simple tools and generations of knowledge to achieve this precise angle, sometimes across distances of dozens of miles. The result was a reliable, self-regulating water source that enabled cities and agriculture to thrive in some of the most arid places on Earth. The Achaemenid Persian Empire was built upon this hidden network of veins, a testament to sustainable resource management on a colossal scale. The true testament to their genius is that many of these ancient Qanats still flow today, quietly sustaining communities just as they did millennia ago. This deep understanding of the Earth and the heavens would soon merge in our next design, a subterranean structure built not for water, but for watching the stars themselves. High on a barren Peruvian hill, 13 stone towers stand in a silent, precise line. But the true secret of the Chankillo Observatory lies not in what reaches for the sky, but in what is hidden beneath the ground. Below these ancient sentinels, a network of tunnels and carefully positioned chambers allowed priests to become invisible witnesses to the cosmos. They could move unseen through these underground passages, emerging into viewing points at the exact moment the sun would rise or set behind a specific tower, marking a solstice or an equinox with perfect accuracy. This was a celestial calendar carved into the very landscape, an architectural clock that tracked the year with breathtaking precision. The builders engineered this sacred site to last, constructing it from adobe and stone in a region plagued by earthquakes. Their understanding of seismic forces meant the observatory could survive the tremors that would topple lesser structures. The alignments are so exact that they imply not a single brilliant insight, but generations of patient astronomical observation, a legacy of data meticulously passed down and finally set in stone. Chankillo is a powerful reminder that for ancient cultures, science and spirituality were not separate pursuits, but two sides of the same coin. They built to understand the heavens, and in doing so, they encoded their celestial knowledge into the earth itself. This same drive for strategic advantage, though for a far more terrestrial purpose, would soon be carved into the mountains of a distant empire. From the celestial observatories of Peru, we descend into the shadows of modern warfare. The Earth of Cu Kai in Vietnam holds a different kind of strategic masterpiece, a sprawling network of tunnels that became the spine of resistance. While used most famously during the Vietnam War, these passages had much older origins, expanded over generations into a subterranean city stretching over 120 miles. This was not just a series of hiding holes, it was a complete underground world with kitchens where smoke was carefully dispersed through distant vents, field hospitals for the wounded, and even theaters for performances to maintain morale. Every inch was carved by hand, using little more than shovels and bamboo baskets. The entrances were masterpieces of concealment, hidden beneath termite mounds or camouflaged trapdoors in the middle of the jungle floor. Beyond mere secrecy, the tunnels were a deadly labyrinth for any outsider who tried to enter. Sharp bamboo stakes awaited in concealed pits, and swinging traps were triggered by nearly invisible tripwires. Survival underground required constant innovation. They designed ventilation shafts that looked exactly like the natural termite mounds common to the area, pulling fresh air down into the depths without raising suspicion. To combat the torrential rains, they engineered water locks, sections of tunnel that could be flooded to block an advancing enemy, or to control the flow of water and prevent catastrophic flooding of the entire system. Even as the ground above was churned by bombs, life persisted below. The tunnels were dug at multiple levels, some as deep as 30 feet, with the upper levels designed to collapse and absorb the blast, protecting the vital operations far beneath. This was ancient defensive principles adapted with brutal modern necessity, a stark demonstration that the earth itself could be the ultimate weapon. The ingenuity of Kukai forces us to ask what other legends of hidden worlds might be grounded in truth, leading us to a complex shrouded in equal parts mystery and history. Herodotus wrote of an Egyptian labyrinth that surpassed even the pyramids. This was the sprawling funerary complex of Pharaoh Amenemhat III at Hawara, a subterranean marvel said to contain 3,000 rooms. Built from immense blocks of granite and limestone, its passages were lined with columns and opened into vast courtyards, all carved with a precision that showcased Egypt's absolute mastery over stone. It was more than a tomb, it was a destination. The labyrinth served as both an administrative heart for the kingdom and a sacred pilgrimage site, a place where the practical business of state intertwined with the eternal journey of the spirit. Yet for all its legendary scale, much of the complex remains a mystery, its deepest chambers submerged by groundwater, their secrets locked away. Satellite imagery and cautious excavations hint at the true enormity lying beneath the sand, a reminder that our greatest discoveries may still be waiting. While the Egyptian labyrinth was a monument to the afterlife, another ancient culture built an entire underground world dedicated to the bustling energy of daily life and trade. The philosophy of carving safety from the earth did not end with ancient empires. Beneath the bustling streets of modern Beijing, a city of a different sort lies in wait, a sprawling subterranean world born from the anxieties of the 20th century. This is the underground city of Beijing, a vast network of tunnels and rooms that stretches for miles. Its construction began in earnest during the Cold War, a direct response to the threat of aerial bombardment, yet its foundations often tap into much older passages dating back to the Ming Dynasty. This was not a mere shelter, but a self-contained urban center designed to sustain life for potentially months on end. Engineers built restaurants that could feed thousands, shops stocked with supplies, and even theaters to provide a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. The passageways were engineered on a massive scale, wide enough to accommodate trucks rumbling through with supplies, all constructed from reinforced concrete and sturdy brick arches designed to withstand immense shock. Every detail was considered, from complex air filtration systems to protect against fallout to a multitude of hidden emergency exits ensuring that no one would be trapped. This monumental project demonstrates a profound adaptability, showing how an underground space can evolve from a single purpose like defense to a multifunctional asset for daily life and civil preparedness. It stands as a powerful, modern iteration of an ancient concept, proving that the human impulse to build beneath the surface is timeless. This continuous thread of subterranean ingenuity, from defensive hideouts to sacred spaces, finds another stunning expression in a site revered not for its scale, but for its impossible geometric perfection. Beneath the quiet streets of Rabat, a different kind of sanctuary whispers of faith and community. The Maltese Catacombs of St. Paul and St. Agatha are not solitary tombs, but sprawling underground cities for the departed, carved from the same soft limestone as the Hypogeum. Here, early Christians transformed natural fissures in the rock into a labyrinth of devotion. They expanded these cracks into multi-level complexes, their halls radiating out from central spaces like the spokes of a wheel. This radial pattern was more than an architectural choice. It was a social one, ensuring every burial chamber, every family's final resting place, was connected to the heart of the community. The builder's genius is visible in the very ceilings overhead, where simple, sturdy arches distribute the weight of the world above, creating a stable, eternal refuge. But these were not silent, mournful places. Carved directly from the living rock are agape tables, low stone platforms where the living would gather to share ceremonial meals with the dead, honoring their memory in a powerful act of communion. The walls themselves tell a story, adorned with faded frescoes of doves, olive branches, and early Christian symbols, a fragile gallery of artistic expression that has survived for nearly 2,000 years. This fusion of practical engineering, sacred art, and social ritual created a profound underground identity. It was a space where a persecuted community could safely practice its faith and forge bonds that death itself could not break. The preservation of these catacombs offers a stunningly clear window into how underground spaces can become the very bedrock of culture and belonging. This mastery over rock and community is mirrored by an even greater feat of earthly control, the mastery of water itself, which brings us to a hydrological wonder that quenched the thirst of an ancient metropolis. Deep beneath the bustling streets of modern Istanbul, a submerged forest of marble holds up the ceiling of a forgotten palace. This is the Basilica Cistern, a 6th century engineering marvel that served as the beating heart of Byzantine Constantinople. Commissioned by Emperor Justinian I, this was not a mere basement tank but a colossal underground cathedral built for water. Its scale is almost incomprehensible, capable of holding 80,000 cubic meters of water, enough to sustain the entire city through long sieges or devastating droughts. To create this vast, stable space, the builders erected a grid of 336 marble columns, each one supporting the intricate brick vaults that form the ceiling. Walking through it even today feels like wandering through an infinite palace that was suddenly flooded, the still water creating a perfect mirror of the architecture above. The true genius, however, lies in the details invisible to the eye. The entire chamber was lined with a special waterproof mortar, a recipe lost to time that successfully held back the immense hydraulic pressure for centuries. Water was channeled into the cistern from aqueducts stretching miles away, and before it even entered the reservoir, it passed through a sophisticated filtration system to ensure its purity for drinking. This was public health engineering on a monumental scale, yet the builders also understood the human spirit. They repurposed older Roman columns, placing 2 massive stone blocks carved with the head of Medusa at their base. One is tilted on its side, the other placed upside down, perhaps to nullify the mythological creature's petrifying gaze, turning a symbol of fear into a foundation stone. The cistern's resilience is as impressive as its beauty, having withstood numerous earthquakes over 1,500 years thanks to its flexible forest of supports and masterful masonry. It stands as the ultimate fusion of raw utility and sublime art, proving that the most critical infrastructure could also be a place of awe. This same principle of creating refuge in a harsh landscape, though on a vastly different scale, echoes in the cliffs of the American Southwest. Tucked high within the sheltered alcoves of a Colorado canyon, entire villages seem to grow directly from the stone. The cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde are not structures placed upon the land, but architecture woven into its very fabric. The ancestral Pueblones who built here over 700 years ago were masters of environmental integration, using the massive, natural overhangs of the cliffs as permanent roofs and protective walls. They constructed multi-story buildings with sandstone blocks carefully shaped and set with adobe mortar, creating a stunning urban landscape on a vertical plane. But their true engineering genius lies in what they built downward into the earth. Scattered throughout the villages are kivas, circular ceremonial rooms that are entirely subterranean. These were not simple pits, they were technologically advanced chambers. A central fire pit provided heat, and the unique placement of a ventilation shaft would draw smoke out while simultaneously pulling fresh air in through another opening, creating a sophisticated airflow system that modern engineers would recognize as highly effective. The entire design was a natural climate control system. The massive rock face absorbed the sun's heat during the day, releasing it slowly through the cool desert night, while the thick stone and earth walls of the dwellings themselves maintained a stable, comfortable temperature year-round. In a landscape where water was more precious than gold, they carved intricate channels into the cliff faces to capture every precious drop of rain, funneling it into carefully plastered storage cisterns. This was sustainable living perfected over centuries, a community thriving in a challenging environment not by conquering it, but by listening to it and learning its rhythms. Mesa Verde stands as a timeless lesson in architectural harmony, a pinnacle of indigenous American genius that speaks to a deep, respectful dialogue between human need and the natural world. This same principle of using the earth for protection and provision was being applied across the globe, where another culture was carving a different kind of fortress into the very heart of a mountain. The limestone cliffs of Matera hold a city that is not built upon the earth but sculpted from it. For over 9,000 years, people have called these caves home, creating one of the longest continuously inhabited places on the planet. The Sassi di Matera is not a ruin, it is a living, breathing testament to adaptive reuse, where every grotto and passage tells a story of survival. Early builders did not start from scratch, they looked at the natural caves lining the ravine and saw a foundation. They expanded these hollows outwards and downwards, carving multi-story homes directly into the soft limestone, with staircases and tunnels stitching the entire community together into a vertical labyrinth. The genius of this design was its seamless integration with the environment. The thick stone walls provided superb natural insulation, staying cool under the fierce Italian sun and retaining warmth during chilly nights. But a city cannot live on shelter alone, it needs water. The inhabitants engineered an intricate system of channels and cisterns to capture every drop of rainwater, storing it in vast underground reservoirs that served the entire community. They even cultivated their food in vertical gardens nestled within the stone, a feat of agricultural ingenuity. This was a society that thrived on cooperation, with shared courtyards, communal ovens, and over 150 rock-cut churches fostering a powerful sense of social cohesion. After a period of decline in the 20th century, a remarkable rehabilitation project cleared the slums while preserving the historic fabric, transforming the Sassi into a vibrant UNESCO World Heritage Site. Matera proves that an underground habitat is not a primitive existence, but can evolve into a complex, resilient, and deeply human community. This idea of a hidden community carved from stone finds a much colder, more mysterious echo in the far north. Far to the north, where the sea wind carves the land, the Orkney Islands hold a secret of stone and light. Here, around 5,000 years ago, a Neolithic society raised great grassy mounds that hide some of the most sophisticated tombs ever built. Mesa is the crowning achievement, a massive chambered cairn that is far more than a simple grave. Its entrance is a long, low passageway that leads into a central chamber built from enormous slabs of local flagstone. The builders cut these stones with incredible precision, fitting them together so tightly that not a sliver of mortar was needed, and the walls have stood perfectly true for millennia. Above, a corbelled roof rises, each stone layer stepping inward until the space is sealed, a masterpiece of weight distribution that has defied the crushing pressure of the earth piled high above it. But the true magic of this place reveals itself only for a brief time each year. As the winter solstice sun sinks toward the horizon, its last rays align perfectly with the entrance passage, casting a beam of light that travels the length of the stone corridor to illuminate the dark, central chamber deep within the mound. This was no accident. It was a deliberate act of architectural astronomy, a way of connecting the world of the dead with the cosmic cycle of rebirth. The engineering required to achieve this celestial alignment, to orient a massive earthwork with such pinpoint accuracy, speaks of a profound and settled knowledge, a society that watched the skies and possessed the technical skill to etch their understanding into the very landscape. These tombs are early landmarks of landscape engineering, where spiritual belief and practical construction became one and the same. Their remarkable preservation offers a rare window into the technical and spiritual mind of the Neolithic, a culture that could move mountains of earth and stone to honor the passage of both humanity and the heavens. This deep human need to carve out sacred spaces underground would soon find another, more personal expression, not in a tomb for the dead, but in a city of retreat for the living. In the highlands of Ethiopia, faith literally carved a new Jerusalem from the living rock. The 11 churches of Lalibela are not built upon the earth, but revealed from it, excavated downward in a breathtaking feat of 12th century engineering. Imagine a massive block of solid volcanic tuff, a relatively soft stone. The builders did not add to this block, they subtracted from it, first digging a deep trench to isolate a single, colossal piece of bedrock, and then, with infinite patience, hollowing it out from the inside. They sculpted windows, doors, and intricate arched ceilings, all while standing on the ground above their future cathedral. The result is a network of monolithic churches, each one a single piece of stone, connected by a labyrinth of tunnels and ceremonial passages. This underground complex was designed as a spiritual substitute for the holy city of Jerusalem, which had fallen to Muslim forces, making pilgrimage impossible for many Christians. But this symbolic vision required practical genius to survive. They engineered a sophisticated drainage system, carving channels and basins directly into the rock to divert the torrential seasonal rains that would otherwise flood and erode the sacred spaces. Narrow ventilation shafts were integrated into the design, ensuring a constant flow of air through the deepest chambers. The most famous of these structures, the House of St. George, is a perfect cross, standing in a deep pit, its roof level with the surrounding plain. For nearly 900 years, these churches have remained in continuous use, a testament to a vision that saw the divine not as something to be constructed, but as something to be uncovered from within the world itself. This fusion of deep faith and profound engineering created a sanctuary that feels both ancient and eternally new. The same stone that provided the canvas for this devotion also held secrets of sound, leading us to an ancient quarry where the very walls seem to remember the music of its creators. The Romans understood that a city's true strength flowed not just through its legions, but through its water. In the semi-arid landscapes of North Africa, the colony of Timgad stood as a testament to this belief, its public baths and flowing fountains a defiant symbol of civilization in a dry land. This luxury was made possible by a hidden network of engineering, the vast cisterns of Timgad. Carved deep beneath the city, these reservoirs were marvels of arched construction, their vaulted ceilings perfectly designed to bear the colossal weight of the earth and the water itself. But this was more than just a storage tank. The Romans engineered a multi-stage purification system within the darkness. Water first flowed into large sedimentation tanks, where heavier impurities and silt would gently settle to the bottom, allowing clearer water to be drawn off into adjacent chambers. A network of carefully graded channels connected these reservoirs, regulating the flow and pressure throughout the entire system. The builder's secret weapon was a special type of hydraulic cement, a mortar that could not only set underwater but would actually harden and become more durable with time, creating a permanent, leak-proof seal against the relentless pressure. This comprehensive system transformed Timgad from a remote outpost into a thriving, self-sufficient urban center, its water security guaranteed. The principles perfected here, this blend of robust structural engineering and sophisticated hydrology, would echo through the centuries, directly influencing the water management systems of later Islamic and European civilizations. Timgad's hidden veins remind us that the greatest urban planning often happens where no one can see it, a legacy of ensuring life could flourish against the odds. This mastery over the elements was often mirrored by a mastery over the human spirit, as seen in the underground chambers designed not for water but for profound transformation. Deep beneath the Basilica of San Clemente in Rome, a different god was once worshipped in secret. This is the Mithraeum, a 2nd century temple hidden below the city streets, a sacred space dedicated to the mysterious god Mithras. To enter his presence, initiates would descend into a long, narrow chamber designed to feel like the very heart of a cave. The builders used a revolutionary material for the time, brick-faced concrete, which allowed them to construct the vaulted ceiling that arches overhead, a form that would have been far more difficult to achieve with traditional stone blocks. This curved ceiling helped to contain sound within the chamber, a crucial feature for the secret rites that took place here. Flanking the central aisle are 2 stone benches, worn smooth by the faithful who would recline here for ceremonial feasts. At the far end, an altar stands in shadow, carved with a powerful image of Mithras slaying a cosmic bull, the central act of salvation in this mysterious faith. The entire environment was engineered for mystery. With only a few oil lamps to push back the darkness, the flickering light would have danced across the sculpted reliefs, making the figures seem to move. Every element, from the cave-like atmosphere to the acoustically private chamber, was calculated to remove the initiate from the everyday world above and transport them into a profound spiritual drama. This was not a public temple, but a private club for a select brotherhood, and its hidden, underground nature was essential to its power. It offers us a poignant glimpse into the rich tapestry of belief in ancient Rome, a reminder that the spiritual life of the city was not monolithic, but flourished in countless forms, both above ground and below. From these intimate chambers of ritual, we journey to a city of a completely different scale, one built not for secrecy, but for survival in one of the most extreme climates on Earth. The scorching Australian outback seems an unlikely place to find a bustling town, but the true life of Coober Pedy exists entirely beneath the surface. Here, modern opal miners have carved a complete community into the soft sandstone, not for defense or worship, but for one simple, brilliant reason: to escape the relentless desert heat. Their underground homes, known as dugouts, maintain a constant, comfortable temperature around 23 degrees Celsius year-round, a natural climate control system that requires no electricity. This is not a primitive existence, far from it. They have carved out spacious living rooms, bedrooms, and even elaborate churches, their arched ceilings and polished stone walls echoing the sacred spaces of Lalibela. Local shops and libraries are also tucked away in the cool, quiet rock, creating a fully functional subterranean society. The ingenuity continues with practical adaptations, ventilation shafts that channel fresh desert air deep inside, and reinforced entries that prevent the soft sandstone from collapsing. Water, the desert's most precious resource, is carefully drawn from ancient underground reserves, much like the Persian Qanats of old. Using little more than pickaxes and bulldozers, these modern cave dwellers have applied ancient principles of thermal mass and earth sheltering to solve a very contemporary problem. Coober Pedy stands as a powerful, living bridge between past and present, proving that the wisdom of building within the earth is not a lost art, but a continuously relevant form of human ingenuity. This same impulse to seek sanctuary underground reaches back to a much darker, more uncertain time in human prehistory, hidden deep within the French countryside. Footprints pressed into soft clay 14,000 years ago still mark the path forward. Deep within the Grotte de Nirox in the French Pyrenees, the journey was as important as the destination. This was not a shelter or a city, but a profound natural cathedral whose architecture was perfected by nature itself. Paleolithic people did not need to build grand structures here. They adapted what the earth had already provided. They navigated over half a mile into the absolute darkness of the Salon Noir, their way lit only by the flickering fat lamps they carried, a treacherous pilgrimage into the belly of the world. The walls they passed were not blank. They were a gallery of breathtaking power, adorned with masterful paintings of bison, horses, and ibex, rendered with an artistic skill that feels timeless. But the miracle of Nirox is not just the art itself, but the fact that it survives. The cave's natural ventilation and incredibly stable humidity and temperature created a perfect, accidental conservation chamber. The artists intuitively understood this, selecting these deep, protected spaces to ensure their work would endure, a form of environmental engineering achieved through observation and reverence. The cave's layout suggests a carefully choreographed ritual experience. The journey through narrow passages builds anticipation before opening into the vast, echoing chamber of the Salon Noir. In this space, the acoustics are extraordinary. A single voice or the beat of a drum is amplified, the sound swirling around the chamber, making a small group feel like a multitude. Here, surrounded by the vibrant, living images of their prey, with the very rock amplifying their chants, the community could connect with the spirit of the animals they depended on for survival. This was engineering of a different kind, the engineering of experience, where the only modification was a cleared path, and the only tool was a profound understanding of a sacred environment. It proves that our earliest underground designs were not always about altering the world, but about learning how to live within its most powerful spaces. This deep relationship with the earth, one of both resource and reverence, finds a stunning parallel in a place where copper was king. The silence of an English heathland hides a landscape scarred by industry, a place where the earth itself was a resource to be plundered. Grimes Graves is not a burial site, but a 4,000-year-old flint mine, a sprawling complex of over 400 pits where Neolithic miners descended into the dark with nothing more than antler picks and the shoulder blades of oxen. They were not digging for precious metals, but for the stone that was the lifeblood of their technology, the sharp, durable flint needed for axes, arrowheads, and tools. Following the rich, dark seams deep into the chalk below, they carved out tunnels that connected the shafts, leaving behind pillars of untouched chalk to hold up the ceiling in a deliberate act of safety engineering. Their work was organized and perilous. They used wooden ladders to descend shafts as deep as a 5-story building and built platforms to stand on while they worked the valuable seam. Once a pit was exhausted, they performed a final act of management, systematically backfilling it with the waste material, the spent chalk and rubble, which created the distinctive pockmarked landscape of mounds and hollows we see today. Yet this was more than just a quarry. In some shafts, archaeologists have found carefully placed offerings, an antler pick left as a ritual deposit, or a small platform built as a shrine. This suggests the miners understood their work as something sacred, a dangerous dialogue with the earth that required more than just physical strength, but spiritual permission. Grimes' grave stands as a stunning testament to prehistoric industry, revealing a society capable of complex labor organization and possessing a deep, practical knowledge of geology and subterranean engineering. This was large-scale resource extraction, planned and executed with a skill that challenges our perception of primitive society. From these deep pits of communal labor, our journey now descends into a very different kind of underground space, one carved not for the many, but for the privileged few seeking a life of luxury beneath the surface. Beneath the iconic lion rock of Sigiriya, a world of royal luxury unfolds in the cool, shadowed earth. While the fortress above captures the sky, its true genius lies hidden below, in a 5th-century network of palaces and pleasure gardens carved directly into the landscape. These were not defensive bunkers, but serene retreats where Sri Lankan royalty could escape the oppressive tropical heat. The builders integrated the natural terrain with breathtaking skill, constructing walls and courtyards that flowed around existing granite boulders and incorporated ancient caves into the design. This created a seamless transition from the wild, natural rock to the refined elegance of human architecture. Water was the lifeblood of this underground paradise. They engineered a complex system of moats and channels, not just for beauty, but as a highly functional drainage network to manage the torrential monsoon rains. Water collected in pools and cisterns, cooling the air as it circulated through the chambers, while sophisticated hydraulic systems prevented flooding even during the heaviest downpours. Inside, the walls were finished with smooth, polished plaster and adorned with vibrant frescoes, their colors protected from the sun and rain for centuries by the surrounding earth. This was Sinhalese architecture at its most sophisticated, a masterclass in using the subterranean world not for mere survival, but to enhance the grandeur and comfort of life above. It proves that an underground space could be a place of art, leisure, and profound aesthetic pleasure, a principle that finds a different yet equally brilliant expression in our next design, where water itself becomes the object of worship in an ancient temple. Stone foundations carved deep into the Anatolian plateau anchored the spiritual heart of a Bronze Age empire. The Hittite capital of Hattusa held a secret beneath its grand gates and towering walls, a sprawling subterranean temple complex that served the gods and sustained the kingdom. Built over 3,500 years ago, this was not a single chamber but a network of rooms meticulously engineered into the earth. The builders used a technique known as corbelling, placing each stone layer slightly inward until the walls met overhead, creating arches capable of bearing the immense weight of the soil and structures above. This design provided a naturally stable climate, cool in the scorching summers and insulated against bitter winters, making these underground spaces perfect for storing the empire's vital grain reserves and precious ritual offerings. Practicality and piety were woven together in every detail. They carved intricate channels into the stone floors and walls, a drainage system that expertly diverted groundwater and rainfall, protecting the foundations from the destructive power of erosion for centuries. The temple's very layout was a map of the heavens, its chambers and passages aligned with celestial symbols sacred to the Hittite storm gods. Excavations have revealed intricate carvings of deities and mythological scenes, along with artifacts that whisper of long-forgotten ceremonies. This complex stands as a powerful reminder that for the great Bronze Age empires, engineering was never just about utility. It was a sacred act, a way to build a durable bridge between the needs of a thriving city and the demands of the divine. This seamless fusion of the earthly and the spiritual echoes in the foundations of a much later European capital, where a different kind of underground network would shape the destiny of a nation. Beneath the elegant boulevards of Paris lies a kingdom of silence built from the city's own bones. The catacombs began not as a tomb, but as the source of its grandeur, a labyrinth of limestone quarries that supplied the stone for its iconic buildings. By the late 18th century, however, the city faced a crisis above ground. Cemeteries were overflowing, creating unbearable sanitary conditions. The solution was one of both grim necessity and brilliant pragmatism. The abandoned quarries were consecrated and transformed into a permanent resting place for the remains of over 6 million people. This was not a haphazard dumping ground. Engineers first had to reinforce the entire network, constructing sturdy arches and pillars to support the ceiling and prevent the city above from literally falling in. They then arranged the bones with a startling, macabre order, stacking skulls and femurs into neat, geometric patterns that line the walls like a summer mosaic. The result is a carefully engineered ossuary, a monument to public health and urban planning, yet its purpose has evolved far beyond its original intent. For centuries, these tunnels have served as a haven for secret societies, a canvas for clandestine artists, and a stage for underground concerts. This continuous reinvention demonstrates a profound truth that a subterranean space is never truly finished. It can be adapted from an industrial site to a solution for urban decay, and finally into a cultural touchstone. The catacombs are a chillingly beautiful reminder that cities are layered not just in stone, but in memory and function. This human capacity to carve out spaces for the dead finds a powerful parallel in a place built for the living to escape the world entirely. The same volcanic stone that sheltered entire cities in Cappadocia also offered a sanctuary for the soul. Scattered among the region's famous fairy chimneys, entire monasteries were carved inward, creating a hidden world of devotion. Monks wielding little more than hammers and chisels transformed these soft rock spires into multi-level complexes of profound simplicity. They sculpted small, humble cells for solitary meditation, each one a silent chamber for a single mind to turn inward. Yet just a few steps away, they would carve out a communal chapel, its vaulted ceiling rising to meet their chants. A shared refectory for meals ensured that even in isolation, a spiritual community could thrive. Practicality was always woven into the sacred design. Many of these monastic complexes featured hidden passages and escape routes, connecting them to the wider network of underground cities like Derinkuyu, a silent promise of safety from the turmoil above. Within the chapels, the monks brought their faith to life in vibrant color. They covered the walls with intricate frescoes illustrating biblical scenes, their pigments protected from fading by the region's exceptionally dry and stable climate. These paintings have survived for centuries, not in a museum, but in the very spaces they were created to inspire. This architectural balancing act between solitude and community, between practical security and spiritual aspiration, stands as a testament to how deeply religious devotion could drive engineering innovation. The Byzantine monks of Cappadocia were not just hermits, they were subterranean architects who understood how to shape stone to shape the human spirit. Their legacy now challenges modern engineers who work to conserve these fragile painted caves, protecting the very atmosphere that has preserved them for a millennium. This human desire to align our structures with higher powers reaches beyond the earth, aiming for the cosmos itself in our next design. A roof box of stone frames the shortest day of the year. For 17 minutes at the dawn of the winter solstice, a narrow beam of sunlight pierces the absolute darkness of a chamber buried for over 5,000 years. This is Newgrange in Ireland, a massive circular mound that is far more than a tomb. It is a precise celestial instrument carved from the earth. The builders began with a long, narrow passage, walled and roofed with immense, unmortared stone slabs. They directed this corridor deep into the heart of the mound, aiming it with an accuracy that seems impossible for its time. At its end, the passage opens into a cross-shaped chamber, a sacred space where the remains of the dead were laid to rest. But the true genius lies in the detail just above the entrance. A special opening, a roof box, was engineered into the structure. This was not a simple hole. It was a calibrated aperture designed to capture the first faint rays of the solstice sun and channel them down the length of the stone passageway, flooding the inner chamber with a golden light. To achieve this, the builders needed a profound understanding of the solar cycle, requiring generations of patient observation to mark the sun's slow journey across the sky. They also demonstrated incredible logistical skill, gathering white quartz from mountains over 50 miles away and granite from even farther, creating a brilliant, sparkling facade that would have made the entire mound gleam in the sunlight. This was a communal project of staggering scale, a permanent marker of a society's knowledge and its belief in a cycle of death and rebirth. Newgrange stands as a silent witness to a time when science and spirituality were one, when to understand the heavens was to understand the meaning of life itself. This deep connection to the Earth's resources, however, was not always about the celestial. It could also be about a mineral as essential as salt, leading us to a city carved not for the dead, but for a treasure that preserved the living. For centuries, the miners of Wieliczka did not just extract salt, they built a kingdom from it. Deep beneath the Polish town, an entire world was carved from crystalline salt, a labyrinth spanning 9 levels and reaching depths of over 1,000 feet. This was no dark, cramped pit. The miners, working from the 13th century onward, transformed their industrial workplace into a breathtaking subterranean cathedral. They hollowed out vast chambers, supporting the ceilings with intricate wooden frameworks and ensuring fresh air circulated through a network of ventilation shafts. But their most astonishing creations were the chapels. They sculpted altars, pulpits, and life-size statues of saints, all from the very salt they came to mine. Every surface, from the floor to the chandeliers, was hewn from rock salt, glittering in the lamplight. One chamber, the Chapel of St. Kinga, is a basilica in miniature, its walls covered in intricate bas-relief carvings of biblical scenes, all executed with the precision of master artisans. This was more than devotion. It was a profound act of making a harsh, dangerous environment feel sacred and human. The mine's very geology contributed to its longevity. Salt is a plastic material, meaning under immense pressure it slowly flows, naturally sealing cracks and stabilizing the chambers over time. This unique property allowed for the creation of vast, stable spaces that have endured for hundreds of years. The air itself became a resource. The microclimate deep within the mine, consistently cool and saturated with salt particles, was found to be remarkably therapeutic for respiratory ailments. This led to the establishment of an underground sanatorium, where patients could breathe air free from allergens and pollutants. Wieliczka is a stunning example of transformation, an industrial site that evolved through sheer human creativity into a cultural and even medicinal landmark. It proves that a functional space can become a place of art, healing, and wonder, all carved from the Earth's bounty. From this glittering European marvel, our journey takes us to a South American enigma, a complex that continues to baffle explorers with its scale and unknown purpose. High on the sheer canyon walls of New Mexico, the soft volcanic rock holds the imprint of an entire community. The cliff dwellings of Bandelier are not structures added to the landscape, but spaces carefully revealed from it, carved by the ancestral Pueblo people into the malleable volcanic tuff. They saw the great natural alcoves scarring the canyon face and recognized them as ready-made roofs and protective walls. With stone tools and immense patience, they expanded these hollows inward, sculpting multi-story complexes that clung to the vertical rock. Access to these lofty homes was a deliberate challenge, reached only by long, removable ladders that could be pulled up for security, turning each dwelling into a natural fortress. Inside, the rooms were more than mere shelters. The walls were often finished with smooth plaster, sometimes adorned with painted geometric designs, transforming a cave into a home. Just as in Mesa Verde, they built their sacred kivas here, circular ceremonial rooms dug into the floor of the alcoves, their presence a reminder that spiritual life was woven into the fabric of daily existence. Practicality dictated every design choice. They carved deep storage pits into the cave floors to preserve grain from rodents and the elements. Their most critical innovation, however, was their mastery of water. In this arid land, they engineered a system to capture every precious drop, carving channels into the cliff face to direct rainfall into collection basins and reservoirs. This was sustainable architecture in its purest form, a society living in a delicate balance with its environment, taking only what it needed and using every resource with profound respect. The silent, empty rooms of Bandelier stand as a powerful lesson in how to build a civilization without dominating the land that supports it. This ancient need for connection, however, demanded more than just a secure home. It required a way to link distant communities, leading to one of the most extensive underground networks ever conceived for communication and transport. Beneath the elegant arches of Edinburgh's South Bridge lies a city of shadows, forgotten for over a century. The Edinburgh vaults are a ghostly echo of the Georgian city above, a series of chambers constructed in the late 1700s. Built directly into the foundational arches of the bridge, these spaces were engineered with sturdy stone walls and robust flagstone floors, designed for one primary purpose: to support the immense weight of the bridge and the bustling trade street it carried. This was urban infrastructure at its most practical, creating a series of dry, if dimly lit, rooms that were quickly occupied. They became storage cellars for taverns, workshops for cobblers and smiths, and a bustling, if unofficial, commercial hub. Yet the very engineering that made them possible also sealed their fate. The thick stone construction that provided stability also trapped the damp, chilly air of the Scottish climate. With almost no ventilation, the vaults became a breeding ground for mildew and disease, the walls perpetually weeping with moisture. The respectable businesses moved out, and the vaults were abandoned to the city's poorest inhabitants, becoming a notorious warren of illicit activity and desperate poverty. Eventually, they were sealed and utterly forgotten, a secret layer of the city's history buried in plain sight. It was only through modern archaeological excavations that their story was recovered, with artifacts like broken pottery, old coins, and discarded tools painting a vivid picture of the lives once lived in the perpetual twilight. The Edinburgh vaults were never intended to be a home, yet they became one, a stark example of how the unplanned spaces within our grandest structures are inevitably claimed and reshaped by human need. This hidden history beneath a Scottish bridge reveals how even the most utilitarian designs can accumulate layers of social history, creating a poignant archive of a city's unseen life. From these damp chambers of forgotten souls, we turn to an underground space designed for a far more hopeful purpose, a sanctuary dedicated not to commerce or shelter, but to the profound and ancient art of healing. The very stones of Pergamon were believed to sleep, and within them the sick sought their cure. This was the Asclepion, an ancient medical sanctuary where healing was a sacred science, and its most profound work happened underground. Patients did not merely visit this place, they embarked on a carefully orchestrated journey of mind and body, a ritual known as incubation. They would descend into tranquil, dimly lit tunnels carved deep beneath the complex, spaces reserved for a single purpose, to receive healing dreams sent by the god Asclepius. The architecture itself was a form of therapy. The builders lined these tunnels with stone and smooth plaster, creating an environment with a perfectly stable temperature and humidity, a constant, comforting cocoon that shielded the sick from the external world's harsh fluctuations. Fresh water, the essence of life, flowed through small, carved channels, providing a continuous supply and its gentle, soothing sound. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense and medicinal herbs, a natural form of aromatherapy intended to purify the space and calm the spirit. Every element was integrated, from the natural springs whose waters were used for purification, to the sacred symbols of the serpent and staff carved into the walls, reinforcing a powerful placebo effect of divine presence. This was not primitive superstition, but an early, brilliant form of holistic medicine given architectural form. The Asclepian understood that true healing required more than treating a symptom. It demanded an environment that nurtured the entire human being, body and soul. It stands as a timeless testament to the idea that a space carved from the earth can be engineered not just for shelter, but for profound well-being. This ancient pursuit of a perfect, engineered environment brings us to our 28th and final design, a structure that did not merely use the earth, but fundamentally transformed it, combining every principle we have witnessed into one staggering achievement. A desert cliff in western China holds nearly 500 sanctuaries, each one a time capsule of color and devotion. The Mogao Caves, also called the Thousand Buddha Grottos, rise along the ancient Silk Road, a honeycomb of faith carved directly into the rock face. Beginning in the 4th century and for over 1,000 years, monks, artists, and patrons worked to create this breathtaking complex. They did not build outwards but inwards, transforming the cliff into a sprawling spiritual library and pilgrimage site. The builders often started with natural cracks in the stone, carefully enlarging them into full chambers using simple tools and immense patience. To ensure these spaces would last, they employed a clever construction technique, first erecting wooden frameworks inside the caves and then covering them with layers of plaster. This created smooth, stable walls and ceilings, the perfect canvas for their art. And what art it was! They covered every available surface with intricate murals depicting Buddhist parables and celestial scenes, and filled the grottos with thousands of painted clay statues, from serene Buddhas to lively disciples. But how could such vibrant colors survive the harsh desert climate for over 1,600 years? The answer lies in an unseen engineering triumph, a passive ventilation system. The builders carefully designed the cave openings and internal air flows to manage the destructive humidity from visitors' breath and the outside air, creating a microclimate that slowly dried the plaster and protected the pigments. This was preservation engineering on a grand scale. The caves also served as one of history's greatest libraries, safeguarding countless sacred scrolls and manuscripts within their dry, stable darkness. The Mogao Caves stand as our final design, a stunning fusion of artistic genius, spiritual yearning, and practical subterranean engineering. It perfectly concludes our journey through 28 hidden wonders. From cities that sheltered thousands to temples that amplified prayers, from celestial observatories to healing sanctuaries, these structures all share a common thread. They reveal a universal human drive to use the world beneath our feet for protection, for meaning, and for connection. They were built without our modern tools, yet their legacy endures, challenging us to reconsider what true innovation really means. From the glittering salt chapels of Wieliczka to the starlit chambers of Newgrange, A profound pattern emerges across these 28 designs. Despite being separated by continents and millennia, the ancient builders all adhered to a shared set of engineering principles. They did not fight their environment but listened to it, adapting their designs to the local materials at hand. In Cappadocia, they carved into soft volcanic tuff. In the Orkney Islands, they stacked slabs of local flagstone. At Mesa Verde, they used sandstone blocks and adobe. They worked with the earth, not against it, understanding that the most durable material was often the one already beneath their feet. This intuitive grasp of geology was matched by their mastery of physics. They repeatedly turned to the arch, the vault, and the corbelled ceiling, shapes that elegantly channel immense weight downward and outward, creating spaces that have resisted collapse for thousands of years. These forms became their universal language for stability, a testament to their collective understanding of force and pressure. The challenges they faced were also universal. How do you breathe life into a stone labyrinth? How do you keep water from destroying your sanctuary or flooding your fortress? How do you maintain a comfortable temperature deep within the earth? Their solutions, though locally invented, speak to a common ingenuity. The ventilation shafts of Derinkuyu, the capillary channels in the Hittite temples, and the thermal mass of the Sassi di Matera all address the same fundamental need. They were early environmental engineers, creating self-regulating systems that required no fossil fuels, only a deep familiarity with airflow, hydrology, and the thermal properties of stone. Perhaps most importantly, these projects were never the work of a single genius. They were triumphs of community. The scale of Newgrange, the endless tunnels of the Qanats, and the vast cisterns of Constantinople required a shared vision and generations of laborers, artisans, and surveyors working in concert. Knowledge was not hoarded but passed down, refined with each new generation, creating a living library of technical skill. This legacy is not locked in the past. Modern engineers are now looking to these ancient marvels for inspiration, realizing that our ancestors mastered principles of sustainability we are only now relearning. The passive cooling of Coober Pedy, the gravity-fed water systems of the Persian Qanats, and the seismic resilience of Chankillo offer powerful lessons for a world grappling with climate change and resource scarcity. These 28 designs show us that true innovation is not always about creating something new. Sometimes it is about remembering something profound, a forgotten wisdom carved into the very bedrock of our world. They challenge our arrogance, asking us to look beneath our feet and see not primitive handiwork, but a blueprint for a future built in harmony with the planet. From the depths of Derinkuyu to the solstice alignments of Newgrange, these 28 designs reveal a hidden history of engineering brilliance that predates our modern science. They were not built from abstract formulas, but from the raw materials of human need, patient observation, and a profound respect for the earth they shaped. Each structure, whether a city for 20,000 or a chamber for a single prayer, provided a practical answer to a fundamental challenge, from securing water in the desert to finding safety from armies. Yet their legacy is so much more than mere survival. These spaces enrich the human spirit, housing vibrant art in the Mogao caves, amplifying sacred chants in the Hypogeum, and fostering community in the Maltese Catacombs. They prove that necessity and meaning can be carved from the same stone. As we navigate our own era of climate change and dense urbanization, we can draw powerful inspiration from these ancient masters. Their work stands as a timeless lesson in sustainable design, in using gravity instead of gasoline, thermal mass instead of air conditioning, and local materials instead of global supply chains. They achieved resilience not by overpowering their environment, but by listening to it and learning its rhythms. Let their enduring legacy remind us that the greatest engineering often lies just beneath the surface, a quiet wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. Which of these 28 wonders captured your imagination the most? Share your favorite underground design in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into the world's greatest historical mysteries.